Persediaan awal bagi menghadapi
Kira-kira
fenomena El Nino kuat yang
penduduk
diramal
di dua
berlaku
kampung
Jun ini
dekat
perlu
Kelantan
dilaksanakan segera dengan melibatkan kerajaan dan rakyat
kegiatan
untuk Malaysia berada pada tangga keempat dari 10 negara teratas dalam pengurangan kehilangan hutan utama bagi tahun 2022.
Assalamualaikum, my name is NURUL FATIHAH. I will present the evolutions of the Environmental Quality Amendment Act 2012. The Environmental Quality Act 1974 was established in Malaysia to protect and enhance the environment and to prevent, abate and control pollutions. In April 1975, the Ministry of Local Government and Environment formed the JAS as the Environment Divisions. The Environment Divisions was upgraded to a full-fledged department and given the name Nation Environment Department in September 1983. But as time went on, the Act was no longer enough to handle the demands of a nation that was expanding quickly. To solve this problem, the Environmental Quality Amendment Act 2012 was established. The Environmental Quality Amendment Act 2012 is a permanent law in Malaysia that was passed to amend and supplement the Environmental Quality Act 1974. The Act was enacted as a reaction to several environmental issues regarding Malaysia. One of the policy problems is the issue of deforestation is becoming increasingly concerning. A growing number of people have been involved in logging, agriculture growth, and infrastructure development in Malaysia. The issue of deforestation has gotten worse as a result. Malaysia lost 14.4% of its forest cover in 2000. This indicates that Malaysia is losing forest at a pace around 50% higher than Paraguay, which is at 9.6%, given that deforestation frequently happens in Malaysia's deepest forests, where the percentage of trees is greater than 50%. This is due to the fact that it is necessary to support the greatest amount of biodiversity and to store the most carbon. Inadequate waste management is also one of the policy problems. Malaysia has difficulties in disposing of its garbage, which includes electronic, hazardous, and solid waste. Furthermore, Malaysian laws are still too general. Depending on the size of the municipality, only 20% to 70% of the funding goes towards garbage collections. This demonstrates that excessive running expenses will result from poor solid waste management. Every state in Malaysia has seen significant growth, with the most obvious increase being in Kuala Lumpur. From 1970 to 2002, the amount of solid garbage created each day rose substantially, from 98.9 tons to 2,754 tons. Merely 5% of the solid waste generated is transformed into a useful form, with the remaining 20% of being disposed of unlawfully. Last but not least is insufficient environmental impact assessment (EIA) is also one of the policy problems. Environmental impact assessment (EIA) is a legislative and comprehensive procedure that aims for an environmental sound and sustainable development. However, there were concerns about inadequate assessment of environmental impacts for development projects and weak enforcement of EIA requirements. One of the issues is the Baku Dam is a large hydroelectric dam in Sarawak, Malaysia. The EIA for the dam was widely criticized for being inadequate and for failing to fully assess the environmental and social impacts of the project. More than 10,000 indigenous people who are displaced as a result of the Baku Dam were denied their right. The Linus Rare Earth Processing Plant in Pahang, Malaysia is one of the largest environmental issues in Malaysia. The Mitsubishi Rare Earth factory near Bukit Merah, which was closed in the 1990s due to discover environmental radioactive pollutions and obvious adverse health impact. More than 1.2 million people signed a petition calling for the closure of the Linus facilities and the revocation of its temporary license as a result of public campaign and protests.
Assalamualaikum Miss, my name is NAZIRAH binti HALIM and I'm going to continue the presentation with the first objective of Environmental Act 2012. The first objective is to carry out environmental impact assessment EIA so that the purpose measured can create awareness, undertake to prevent, reduce or control the adverse impact on the environmental An environmental impact assessment is a tool to use to determine and forecast how a project will affect the biographical, environmental, and human health, to interpret, to spread the information about the impact, to evaluate potential sites and processes, and to offer solutions to reduce or eliminate any unfavorable effect on the environmental and human health. By using EIA, environmental disruption can be prevented. Today, there is worldwide evidence that we society cannot ignore quality of the environmental. Thus, environmental issue must be addressed as soon as possible during project planning. There should not be any hesitation in abandoning a project or a process at an early stage, or proposing alternative to any project which would have very detrimental impact on the environmental. Aware of this necessity, numerous countries have implemented EIA regulation. International agencies generally also lend their assistance to any industrial project of importance implementing an EIA, including pulp and paper industries.
Assalamualaikum, my name is BINTI KAMALUDIN. My matric card number is 2022897988 from Group 4H. And right now I'll be sharing on the first strategy on the previous objective. The first strategy is awareness. This could affect on air pollution on human society that can be affected by public knowledge of the issue. Next, raise the severity of the penalty and punishment. This should be reviewed and increased in order to teach a lesson. The amount of fines, sanctions, and compounds ought to be determined by the environmental effect. Next, enhancing the accepted limit. A reconsideration of the current standard limit is necessary to make sure that the amount of pollution released into the environment is within permissible bounds. Emission or discharge limitation are crucial, which various factors must be considered.
The objective of Environmental Act 2012 is to conserve natural resources and the existing natural environment, and where it is responsible to repair damage and reverse trends. The biophysical environment is changing, perhaps completely as a result of pressure from overconsumption, population increase, and technology. Government must have started to impose restriction and on action that lead to environmental harm as a result of this awareness. Environmental movements have raised awareness of the various environmental issues since the 1960s. Protection measures are sometimes disputed because opinions differ on how much human activity has affected the environmental.
Next, on the second objective, the first strategy is approved location. This is where people can register their automobile for smoke meter-based smoke emission testing, which are carried out at the facility. This action has been taken by the DOE to fix the vehicle in order to stop it from spewing out unneeded smoke into the atmosphere. And next, by support the renewable energy source like solar and wind power reduce air pollution. And private sector companies like Petronas, which invest in renewable energy to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. And the third strategy is select non-toxic substance. This will result in pollution when they are discharged into the air or water. As a result, this topic deserves more attention since it will contribute to environmental improvement.
The last objective on Environmental Act, which is objective number 3, is to establish of environmental laboratories. Environmental laboratories is responsibility for dealing with contaminants that affect the environmentals, human and wildlife. From the time of the industrial movement, the world has been involving in various sectors such as technology, chemical, medicine, infrastructure, and many more. However, this rapidly growth has directly affected our environmental intensively, and this is why a strong action is required, because apart from the entire ecosystem, it is also affecting humans and our habitat. The work of this technical is analyzed and directed by environmental scientists or engineers. The higher scientists or engineers in the environmental laboratories are responsible for developing new procedures or environmental cleanup or recommending new policies. Therefore, it has been intensively to take responsible action to measure indoor air quality, contaminant, and more.
On the third objective, the strategy refers to the scientists, researchers, and other concerned authorities which can develop a strategy to address pollution-related problems and create a detailed plan to reduce air pollution using the value provided by API. That was conducted to underline the importance of including construction engineering in air pollution. Next, green laboratories requirement that must be met. This policy will lessen the environmental impact of new industrial facilities that encourage the construction of environmentally friendly infrastructure. Lastly, reward for improving aged living facilities. This improvement will have allowed a selection organization like NADIAH, since the Malaysian Green Technology and Climate Change Corporation (MGTC) providing investment tax breaks to business dedicate to green infrastructure and solutions. Thank you.
Deforestation. One significant weakness of the Environmental Quality Act and its associated policies in the context of deforestation lies in their limited efficacy in addressing the complexes of deforestation challenges in Malaysia. This weakness in enforcement and penalties for violence are evident as illegal loggings and encroachment into forested areas continue in a largely unchecked. Next one, which is a lack of stringent regulation, clear land and tenure policies and incentive for sustainable land use contributes to the expansion of the industry like oil palm plantation, which often result in the forest conversion. You can see deforestation is a major contributor to the climate change. According to the Malaysian Ministry of Natural Resource and Environment, deforestation accounts for about 25% of a Malaysian greenhouse gas of emission. According to the Global Forest Watch, Malaysia lost an average 119,000 hectares of primary forest per year between 2001 until 2020. Waste management, an average of 1.17 kg, or it can be 36,999 tons of waste of each household were generated by Malaysian daily. By referring to the last year data, which is from the Solid Waste Management and the Public Health Cleaning Corporation (SW Corp), most of the waste coming from the food waste that end in a landfill, while some could potentially be recycled. This can be an indicator to our waste management that was still not good enough. The landfill in Malaysia were expected to be full. And according to SW Corp, the increasing rate of recycling rate from 31.52% in 2000 is good, but despite of that, it's still unsatisfactory considering most developed nations which have achieved at least 60%. The increasing rate of recycling rate from 31.52% in 2001 is good, but despite that, it still was unsatisfactory considering most developed nations which have achieved at least 60%. The promotion of recycling, reduce and reuse was also not good enough. This is because in order to achieve at 60% recycling rate and reduce the waste, not only government and waste management department was responsible, but the whole community. This must be started from the early education, which is imprinting the effect in the waste cannot be continued in the future and negative impact that could harm the environment. According to Bernama 2023. Environmental Impact Assessment, which is EIA. Environmental Impact Assessment still was not good enough in their assessment of environmental impact. It was also found that the EIA was not that effective. This is due to the missing of the framework for the environmental planning at regional level and a local level in Sarawak. This has affected the effectiveness of the federal as well as the state of environmental impact assessment, which is EIA procedure. This also because the EIA is essentially put as a project-based tool. Its ability to the part is limited. As we can see, the The dam in Bakun in Sarawak is a proof of the level of effectiveness of EIA. The evaluation of the impact on environment is so poor, the dam has become unsustainable. Safe River studied the global impact of mega dam are well documented. It also mentioned at a 2016 study cited that the American Institute of the Biological Science journal that found that hydroelectric dam emit in 1 billion tons of greenhouse gas a year. Another impact of the dam is the dam can produce a potent greenhouse gas. This type of gas can contribute to the global heating just like the aviation industry, according to the Kiong 2020.
So 4.2 policy evaluation, which is strength. So under strength we have the strength of deforestation, waste management, and environmental impact assessment. So the deforestation, Malaysia is country with 67.55% of forested area that can help environment, for example, emission reduction and reducing climate. So Malaysia is a tropical country that contains 67.55% of forested area. This really help environment a lot. For example, reduce the emission, which also contain CO2. The CO2 can harm human. This forested area also able to reduce the climate change. The second point is waste management. So the strength under the waste management is Malaysia privatized and centralized solid waste management. Government also provided targeted incentive to company that undertake the activity. What it mean? Incentive to companies that undertake the activity is government will give incentive for companies that are doing the activity such as recycling the waste of toxic and non-toxic waste. An extended tax incentive has also been introduced. The incentive aims to encourage the firm or company to find a new way of them handling the waste, which mean the new way that more sustainable towards the environment. Third point is environmental impact assessment. So the strength under the environmental impact assessment is this assessment come with guideline for project proponents. The guideline also mainstreaming the environmental aspect that must be followed. So clear guideline has been prepared to project proponent. Environmental mainstreaming also imprinted in the guideline to ensure the environmental aspect must be prioritized. So if the before the project will be accepted, the project proponent must follow the guideline which has been clearly stated in the principle. Under the principle also clearly stated that environmental is very important to the society. So the principle under the guideline also asks the project proponent to have a very deep understanding of the current environment condition. So what it mean? For example, the project proponent must not let this is an example, must do not burn the waste of the project because it can affect our ozone layer.
In response to the weaknesses of the policy where it still causes the deforestation, the Malaysian government has officially followed the new law of deforestation made by the European nation and the EU as it forbid the commodity that is plants on the ground to be cut in 2020. The fourth, the deforestation of the country, which is actively involved in the activity of deforestation. The Global Forest Watch, the GFW, also said that the Malaysians reduced in primarily forest loss by 70% between 2014 and 2020, according to deforestation data and statistics from Department of Statistics Malaysia. After the implementations of the policy reform, there is a trend decreasing deforestation activities from 2013 until to 2022, which is from 106 in 2013, 230 in 2014, and 71.9 in 2022. Palm oil industry is seen as the area that is actively involved in the activity of deforestation, where it has caused the unsustainable land use, where it becomes a major climate change where the activities are not handled wisely. In response to that, the Malaysian government has introduced the no deforestation, no peat, and no exploitation (NDPE) is the way forward in the palm oil industry. Forbid the deforestation, including the palm oil industry and peatland development, to stop clearing forests or developing plantations on peatland, and uphold labor and community rights. The first waste-to-energy facility in Malaysia will be located at Taman Beringin in the capital city Kuala Lumpur. It is expected to start operation in 2019 with an estimated capacity of 1,000 tons per day. Furthermore, a waste-to-energy plant is under construction. The Saipak Resources Berhad is diversifying into the less clinical business of renewable energy, the RE generation and waste management concession business, to strengthen its income-generating capability. The company is investing to build this plant in Ladang Tanah Merah, Negeri Sembilan. According to the information, this facility will be able to produce 25 million watts of power from handling solid waste disposal, and has the ability to increase the capacity in the future as a sanitary landfill for coming lead, inert solid waste, and processed waste residuals, environmental treatment system including leach treatment facility, and salvaging yard for combustible solid waste and recyclables. As for response to the EIA, the government should continuously review and update regulations and standards related to the emissions to ensure they are comprehensive, up-to-date, and aligned with the international best practices. This includes setting more stringent emission limits, expanding the scope of regulated pollutants, and addressing emerging pollutants. The policy effectively applied in the country as state, where the industry and company involved in this act or applied with this act has increasingly followed the rules and the regulation made under the Environment Act 2012. As for the example, the Ministry of Environment will increase the fine for environmental pollution offenders to 10 million ringgit and prison with sentence, as should the policy should be continued without the modification.